Welcome into the One Winning Pod Ravens History Corner, a special Christmas edition, you could say, as the Ravens will this week be taking on the Atlanta Falcons in Baltimore on Christmas Eve. From all of us at the One Winning Pod team, we want to wish you and yours a very happy holiday season, Christmas season, whatever you celebrate. May it be a great and relaxing break from work, school, life, and the ups and downs that have been this trying season for the Ravens. Now, this will not be the first time that the Ravens will have played on either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. There's been several occasions where this has happened in Ravens history, and in each case, the Ravens gave, we shall say, some gifts to the fan base in either the form of an exciting game or historic win for the franchise. As these games come late in the year, it is only natural that a win usually comes with significant impacts to standings and playoff seeding, which, when the Ravens win, can feel like an added gift under the tree to the fan base, courtesy of their favorite team, make the holiday season feel a little brighter, at least in the moment, at least before the next week comes and more NFL craziness happens. But, so without further comment, we're going to jump into the 5 best gift packages from the Ravens that they've given to their fan base on games played on Christmas Eve/day. This first one, we got to put it in here because it was a great game, but that was it. That was all the Ravens fan base got in 2016 from the Ravens. An exciting game, a game that had playoff implications, a divisional game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, but unfortunately, it would be a game the Ravens would lose. It was a fun game to watch until it wasn't. The Ravens got out to a 20-10 lead on the Steelers. Joe Flacco throwing a touchdown pass to Steve Smith in one of Steve Smith's final games in his NFL career, and the Ravens defense would make it difficult for the Steelers. They would silence Antonio Brown for much of the game and get some turnovers off of Ben Roethlisberger, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Unfortunately, the Steelers would climb back, take a 24-20 lead. The Ravens would climb back themselves, and with about 1 minute, 20 seconds to go in the game, Kyle Juszczyk would get a rare call to run the football for about a 10-yard run into the end zone. Honestly, he probably should have fallen down at the 2 or 1 yard line, give the Ravens some more clock there to work with on defense, but unfortunately, it was enough time for the Steelers to march down. Ben Roethlisberger was able to throw a strike to Antonio Brown, who was stopped right at the goal line by 3 Ravens defenders, was able to stick his arm over and win the game for the Steelers. So a gift that at first felt like it was going to be a big division win, but instead became a lump of coal as the win for the Steelers not only lowered the Ravens' place in the division that year, but also essentially wrote them out of the playoffs by the end of the week's games, tiebreakers and everything accumulated. The Ravens would be eliminated from the playoffs, unfortunately. But the rest of the games on this list, they were wins. And with the wins, we'll start out at number 4. 2005, the Ravens hosting the Vikings on a night game on Christmas Day. And now, 2005, there was nothing here, absolutely nothing for Ravens fans to get excited about. This year was a total wash. There were plenty of injuries to star players. Defense not as good as in years past. The hope that adding an actual wide receiver, veteran wide receiver through free agency and a wide receiver through the draft, Derek Mason and Mark Clayton respectively, paired with Todd Heap, would help Kyle Bowler's quarterbacking finally reach the next level. Did not pan out either. On top of that out with a uncharacteristically poor season from Jamal Lewis, and it was just a mess of a season. But late in 2005, the Ravens, they started. It was way too little too late, but for fans who were just looking for something to cheer for this team, it was a little bit of a consolation prize to see them pull together and start to form a semblance of an offense and defense and, put together some decent wins late in the season, and that was included in this game. The Ravens would put on some offensive fireworks in this game. Kyle Bowler would complete touchdown passes to Todd Heap, Mark Clayton, and Derek Mason, as I mentioned before, to 3 receiving threats in this offense. The touchdown pass to Mark Clayton was 47 yards, which back in those days, seeing a touchdown pass that deep was a rarity. And the one to Mason wasn't terribly short either, 39 yards. So that touchdown pass to Mason would put the Ravens up 24-20, and that would really put them ahead for the rest of the game. The Vikings would try and come back. They would intercept a Kyle Bowler pass that was intended for Mark Clayton, but the Ravens defense would close the door on this game with 1 minute, 44 seconds left to go in the game. Brad Johnson was forced to scramble out to his right, and he was sacked by Ravens linebacker Dalius Thomas, forced a fumble that was recovered by Anthony Weaver, and that was it. The Ravens would score an insurance field goal, and they would go out and win that game and at least give Ravens fans the gift of a win, an exciting win at that in a year when there was practically nothing for Ravens fans to cheer about. All right, number 3 on this list, the next 3 games, all Christmas Eve games. All Christmas Eve games, just like this game will be. Christmas Eve 2011, this was a win versus the Cleveland Browns. Ravens coming off a disappointing loss a week prior on a Sunday Night Football debacle in San Diego, just getting rolled over in that game. But they came back here with a chance to keep pace with the Steelers for the division title, and did they ever against Cleveland. Got out to 17-0 lead before the halftime, and just kind of sat on the lead, to be honest, after that, but it was enough. The Browns would slowly come back in this game. Would score 2 touchdowns, make it 20-14, but Ravens defense would hold, and right after a 2-minute warning, the Ravens would look to go for it on 4th and 2, but they would get the Browns with the hard count. Get them with the hard count. Browns would jump. Ravens would just be able to run out the clock after that. And not only did this win allow them to keep pace with the Steelers in the AFC North, and it would eventually lead to them winning the AFC North that year and hosting the divisional playoff game that they would have in the second round. This is number 2 seed, but it also solidified the first time in franchise history that the Ravens would achieve a perfect record at M&T Bank Stadium, and not just M&T Bank Stadium, at their home stadium. So that includes a few years at Memorial Stadium, obviously, because they had losing records there. But so that was a huge accomplishment for the Ravens. They would remain undefeated that year at home, as they would win the home playoff game and then lose in New England. But big win there for the Ravens, and really solidified their playoff hopes. And like I said, undefeated at home. Excellent for that year for the Ravens. And number 2 on this list, we're going to the 2000 season. Christmas Eve, the final week of that year. Seasons ended earlier back then. Ravens were playing the New York Jets in a game where the Jets got out to a little bit of a lead, but then, Ravens, they wouldn't do it with offense, but they would get a 98-yard interception return touchdown from Chris McAllister, as well as 2 punt return touchdowns from Jermaine Lewis, which would be enough for the Ravens to pull out a 34-20 victory in a little bit of an unorthodox method for winning, even for the 2000 Ravens, which certainly found several unorthodox ways to win games. And that win would solidify that the Ravens, at worst, would finish second place in the AFC Central and would host a home playoff game, as that's what the top division runner-up would do back in those days, with there only being 3 divisions. Remember, the 4 divisions didn't come around until 2002. And it put them in a spot to be able to take the AFC Central title if the Tennessee Titans would lose to the Dallas Cowboys the following night on Monday Night Football. But the Titans demolished the Cowboys, who were not good at all that year. So that was never really a expectation. But still, great Christmas gift there to the Ravens fan base, seeing the Ravens secure that home playoff game. Certainly exciting. It was an exciting time for Ravens fans that playoff game that first playoff game in franchise history would be in Baltimore. I was lucky enough that my father took me to it when I was just a mere 8 years old. Very exciting time to be a Ravens fan and to go to that game, of course, and to see that Super Bowl run. We can all remember that. That was an excellent time. Number 1 on this list. Okay, so we started out this list reminding us, unfortunately, of a loss in Pittsburgh. This one was a win. Christmas Eve 2006, Baltimore Ravens. This was the year that they would have their best season by record in the regular season until 2019 surpassed it. The Ravens would go into Pittsburgh and eliminate the defending Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers from playoff contention with a resounding 31-7 win. You had the passing offense just picking apart the Steelers. Steve McNair would throw for 3 touchdowns in this game, which would only be the second and last time that he would do that in a Ravens uniform in 2006. And it had some big games on the defensive side of the ball as well. Fumble recovery and an interception for Ed Reed, both of which returned for moderate gains. DeJuan Landry had an interception that nearly was returned for a touchdown. Sacks across the board for Landry, Corey Ivy, Haloti Ngata, Dalius Thomas, Ray Lewis, Kelly Gregg, Terrell Suggs. Just everything went great for the Ravens in this game. 31-7 win. And like I said, you got to knock the Steelers out of the playoffs. It was the first time that the Ravens had won in Pittsburgh since 2001. They had a little bit of a drought in between then. And the win catapulted the Ravens to the 2nd seed in the playoffs with a chance to make the 1st seed if the tiebreakers worked their way and they won in the final week of the season. And so we know they did get the 2nd seed that year. Very exciting win for the Ravens with exciting implications from a division rivalry standpoint, from a season standpoint. Just an all-around great game there. And we can certainly appreciate that game still now. So there it is. I think that we can say that is a list of the 5 best Christmas gifts the Ravens have given the fan base on Christmas Eve/day games. A little bit of a contrived topic this week, but I still thought, it was fun in the spirit of a holiday game, as we don't get too many of them. It's either going to be a Christmas game or a Thanksgiving game, to look back on it. And sometimes we find some interesting history in that way that maybe some of us forgot. It brings back some good memories, some not so good memories in case of that first one. But, hopefully the Ravens can add another great holiday win to the list on Saturday. We know that the Ravens need this win. Hopefully Lamar Jackson's out there. It's looking dicey, as he still hasn't practiced yet as of the time I'm recording this, but hopefully the Ravens get the win, and regardless of what happens this season, just want to make sure that everyone has a great holiday season. Take the time you need to recharge, enjoy time with family and friends. Football is only a small part of life. There's things so much bigger than that. So from all of us here at the pod, just have a great holiday season. We appreciate you guys, and go Ravens.